development. So the question is, where is education, right? In terms of teaching, or better, teacher education. Because then it gets bigger, and things start getting bigger by the hour here. So education, in fact, again, it's a kind of superordinate term. It encompasses training and development. So both are inside teacher education. But look at this funny thing. What it adds is teacher knowledge. Remember the first one of these slides with the 3 areas of professional competence? And the last one was knowledge. Now, and then I asked you, knowledge of what? And some of you said language. You couldn't be more on the ball here. Yes. So the knowledge of the language is very important. How well you use English. How well you can transmit and use English correctly for the students. This is all very important. But this is not the only knowledge that we are talking about when it comes to teacher education. We also need knowledge about the language. So one thing is to be able to use language correctly. Sorry? Okay. The other thing is to know about the language you're teaching. Now, there is a certain paradox here, which is sometimes even native speakers who come to schools or who would like to start teaching at schools, they generally know a lot how to use the language. But not necessarily are they trained to think about the language. I have been giving CELTA courses in Brazil and in other countries. And I have had lots of native speakers doing CELTA courses and more recently DELTA courses. And it's funny to see that these the native speakers, they tend to use language very correctly, but whenever they are asked to think about language, they have a real hard time. So they are really very able to use the present perfect flawlessly, but then say, okay, you have just used the present perfect. What have I just used? And then this knowledge about the language is essential. And let me tell you something here. Knowing the labels, the meta language, knowing that something is referred to as present perfect is not necessarily knowledge about the language. These go much deeper. Deeper than the level that students can recognize, for example. There are students who can recognize present perfect, adjectives, nouns. So this is just, you're just scratching the surface here. It goes much deeper. Much beyond. This is the kind of instruction which is partially seen at CELTA level, for example, but it really gets deep at DELTA level, because then you really, with lots of sugar on top, you really need to know about the language. Now, you also need to know more about principles and theories of language teaching and language learning, which is also DELTA level. This is, as CELTA starts, I'm talking Cambridge here because they are the most common certificates, all right? But CELTA should be more like training plus a little bit of development. CELTA goes a little bit higher in terms of development, going deeper in terms of information. You have to go for reading, which means you know more about theories and principles. And then there is DELTA, which is the absolute top of it, where you really have to go for a lot. And also, especially critical thinking. Remember what I told you some minutes ago? So, all right, which questions do I have about the teaching that I do? How can I transform this teaching into a source of possible questions to be asked? How critical can I be of my own teaching? This is essential. Without this, there is no development. If you understand that you have reached the top of your teaching, something is wrong. Not because you haven't done that, possibly, but because things change. Language changes. Teaching and how people learn changes or change. The books change. The theories change. The students change. So everything, and that's why every, let's say, 5 years or so, CELTA, CELTA, DELTA, all of them are very carefully redesigned or reanalyzed or analyzed for the sake of adjusting parts of the course, because there are new theories, new research coming up every 5 minutes. And they teach us that the way people learn and consequently the way we teach change. And then, the very fact you're here today tells me that you're probably one of those teachers who keep connected with the new. And this is important. And this is part of critical thinking. The last thing about education is it's self-regulated. You have to go for that. Sorry to tell you. Nobody's going to do that for you. No, it's very difficult for you to find schools that take care of teacher education. There are lots of schools that go up to teacher development. They offer the tools. But really, this is self-regulated. You've got to go for more. You have to share and see what else can you get in the future, and which tools you need to reach that in a way. So far, so good. So heading towards the end. It's sort of difficult to talk about that without being a little bit boring. Sorry about this, but I think it's kind of information which you all need to be able to think about yourselves as professionals in this area. Now, all of these are going to take you, sorry about this. Now, this is the last one. You can take pictures of this slide, although this is going to be made available to all of you, right? This takes you to professional development. So hopefully, if you can think about this construct, training, development, and education, which do not take place separately. Sorry if I gave you this sort of a message that may have been misleading. These are not separate bodies, right? They run together. Good. Then you're probably going to be able to do more with this. Now, 2 last questions, I promise. Go back to just 2 last ones. I'm not going to ask you anymore, just 6. I mean, these are the last 2 of the 6, right? There we go. Let me see if I have 6. Yes, I do. All right. There is no right or wrong answer. This is very personal. It's the way you look. You're looking at this point in time, you're looking at professional development. Maybe things will change as from tomorrow. We don't know. So, yes, 3 of you have already something planned in the short term. 1 of you say in the medium term, okay, and then the 2 of you say in the long term, which is, the good thing is nobody said, I have no idea. Very good, which means at least you've got this small notion of what you intend to do or would like to do next. What I generally propose, I'm going to sort of propose a path for career development. But before I do, you don't have to do this now. This is more like food for thought. We've got in my company, we've got about 30 teachers who are always in teacher training with us and always in professional development projects. And they all think about this in terms of what they have done up to now and what they would like to do in the near future. The first talk here with Paloma, you talk about dreams and projects and things you'd like to do. Think about that in terms of professional development. I'll give you this in a minute, as soon as you answer the last question. Ready? Forgot your name. You look so familiar, Larissa. Have we met before? I have 5. There is... Okay. Aha. Okay, thank you. Now, sharing. Most of you have some ideas to choose from. Good news. One of you has a notion, but the good thing is nobody, again, has no idea. And this is good because this is I generally give this session, in fact, it's a 3-hour session. I've reduced that for Disal. But the kind of interaction I have with teachers, it's 80% of them, 85% of them would be here. And that's the reason why they come to talks like this, to try to understand what they could be doing next in terms, because this is a lot of investment. It's investment of time. It's an investment of money. Because these things are not inexpensive, let's say, right? So it's also a huge step in terms of what to do next. Right, thank you for replying promptly. That was very nice of you. Let me show what I believe could be something for you to think about. Okay. This is, as I said, I'm going to take this, I'm going to give you this for you to take home. But this is basically what you have done so far in terms of training, development, and education. And what do you think you could be doing the next year? What do you think you could be doing the next 5 years? And believe me, this plan may seem a little bit out of hand right now. Say, come on, 5 years, I don't know whether I'll be alive in 5 years. That's true. But, not in your case. Well, the way I eat hamburgers, that's probably my case. So my point here is, whenever you plan for 1 year and 5 years, you, as Paloma suggests in the first session, you can plan for it. You can maybe save money. You can think of the best time for you to engage in something like CELTA or even DELTA, which is 20 times as difficult. So when you go home and you find yourself 5 minutes, think about that. So, okay, who do I want to be? Also, it's going to instruct you in terms of what to do. Maybe you'd like to be teaching the next 5 years. Exactly. Maybe you won't like to be teaching in 5 years' time. Maybe you'd like to be training. Maybe you'd like to have your own school. Maybe you'd like to be the director of a school. We don't know. So this can tell you a lot about who you are and where you're going. This is just really for you to take home. My pleasure. To there, can you give one to Nahim? One there, one there. Stay there, stay there, stay there. It's okay. Did it charge? Right. Sorry? Sorry about that. Look, but what you can do is, suggestion is, instead of you thinking about your weekend being destroyed by that, what you can do, I'm just kidding. You can wake up early on Sunday, about 7:30. Then you go to a bakery. We have nice bakeries in São Paulo. Sit comfortably, get a cappuccino or a croissant with some butter, and then think about plan the next moves in your career, right? Suggestions for you to have these moves in your career. This is just really a suggestion. But this is something that not many teachers think about. Or if they do think about, not many of them they really try to make it happen. So the first thing that you should think about is working on your competencies. The ones we discussed today. First one, remember the professional competence map? Instructional design, behavior and abilities, and knowledge and critical thinking. For instance, I'll give you some suggestions about each. But the fact that, for example, and I hear that a lot, say, André, but I've been teaching privately for 3 years now. I just have private students. What can I do? I mean, there's so much you can do. Look at this. One of the things that you can do is go for language training. For those who are not native speakers, or those who do not have English as a native language, let's avoid the term native speakers, but anyway, you should learn how to use this language well. Prep courses for international exams like IELTS or CPE, CAE, Cambridge, Main Street examinations, all of these is important. And as much as possible, try to find, if that's the case, language courses for teachers, so that you are surrounded by people who have been doing the same thing and being exposed to the same kind of materials. This makes a certain difference. Now, if you think about that, look, even if you're teaching privately, which are some of the things that you can do to try to develop? Remember, the thing that comes from the inside. Okay, you can participate in training courses at school. But André, I don't teach for any school, I teach privately. Workshops like these will help, but there are also companies like mine, and there are others that offer training courses for teachers on a regular basis. So there is a way for you to keep connected and participate in training courses. Right? You can also participate in peer observation, which is a powerful tool. I generally say that I did lots of courses, that's true, but I never learned about teaching so much as I did and I do with lesson observation. I observe about 200 lessons every year. And there is no lesson in which I do not learn one thing. So this is a powerful thing. And then again, you say, André, but I just teach privately. I just have 15 private students. Right, but you probably know other private teachers, don't you? You probably have a network of teachers around you. Why not maybe forming a group of teachers, and then regularly one could go see their colleagues' lessons. I think that's something that you can do. Sharing and collaborating, talking, using the internet, using WhatsApp, That's a very, if you can form groups, although groups are sometimes, how can I say that politically correctly, groups are not exactly well seen sometimes, right? Because WhatsApp, are you part of a WhatsApp group? Family, maybe? Or I am. They send me 20 messages every day. I cannot read them, possibly. But the point is, there are other ways for you to form a group and exchange experiences. You can observe and deliver talks and workshops. Think of yourself as a potential deliverer. Somebody who's going to come up here and share your experience with someone else. Why not maybe have a group of teachers in which you organize a round of workshops delivered by you about your students, about the teaching you have been doing, about the materials you use, about anything. Think about this. And writing a teaching journal. This is more like, okay, I may do that, I may not do that, but I don't have the time to do that. But look, you have a Instagram, wonderful. Instagram is a wonderful way to share. And although it's based on pictures generally, you can have a small text and you can share ideas and you can hashtag other universes. So, good. Now, teaching-oriented courses. CELTA, CELTA, DELTA, Masters. Masters of Arts. Oops, sorry. That was my mother. My mother this morning was very slow. No, I'm just kidding. That was me, myself. So, Masters. So, these are important courses for you. Or for any teacher who wants to develop. Unfortunately, we do not develop on our own. All through the 30 years of a career, you need help coming from experts. Important thing is always stay connected. I'm going to get back to this for the last 5 or 10 minutes of our talk, but always stay connected. Join communities. Share your communities. Read blogs and web pages. Follow people you admire and respect. See if there is anything that they are looking into right now that you should be looking into right now too. So this is a brief suggestion, right? You're not supposed to do that, as there are authors who would probably suggest something different. But I think that, I've been working for the last 20 years with teacher training and teacher development. I've been a teacher educator myself for the past 15 years of my life. And I think that this is, you can make it possible. If you think about this and you get that plan I gave you. So, okay, where am I going to place these things here? You can make it happen. Now, just before...
I start going to churches that are in the English community.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And then, but who else knows about this? There should be people knowing about this. You should share these with other people who may then maybe...
Church of England.
That's it. So I think that one thing that you can do is prepare a workshop like this, showing this experience. This would be wonderful. Now, let me then show you something about, that's just to finish, bring that to an end. Let me show you then something about the qualifications, right? We discussed that we've got training, development. You have to think about your education as a teacher. All right, the training may come from somewhere else, but development and education will depend a lot on you. What can you do? Right, in terms of training and development, these are very popular courses. Have you done TKT? All right. TKT, which is teacher TKT too, right? Teacher knowledge, teacher knowledge, no, teacher knowledge, test knowledge teaching, right? And then CELTA, which is teaching English for adult students. I don't know if Kyla does, I mean nobody else, but maybe in the near future. For those who haven't attended any official course like this, I think that the CELTA is a must. CELTA is where it all starts, really. So
I got the Cambridge certificate. Qualifications.
right, that's language.
I like
This is teaching. All of these are teaching. And this is a nice point. These are not about language. All of them, for all of them, you need a certain level of English to be able to do that, right? Right, in terms of education, remember it adds teacher knowledge. Knowledge about the language, knowledge about the principles, and critical thinking. Of course that we have a little bit of this in CELTA and ICELT more, but it's only with language courses like the one leading to CAE, CPE, and so on and so forth. Maybe a master's, applied linguistics, teaching, education, TESOL, or if you really have the guts, the Delta, and money, right? The CELTA is the certificate for the teaching of adults, and Delta is the diploma. The diploma. Delta is ranked 7 in England, which is the top. It's really the top diploma we have for language teaching in England. So, and this is a lot of teaching, a lot of time, and a lot of money, yes. But believe me, it's a lot of learning. Both CELTA, I mean all of them, CELTA, ICELT, and Delta, teachers started having this mindset, and they are a different teacher by the end. Some of them may even be a little bit resistant, but in the end, they say, okay, all right, this makes sense. And they bring along with them some of the teachings they received. Delta is even harder. Why? Because Delta is, CELTA is about the learning curve. You do the course, you get exposed to the theory, you teach 8 or 9 lessons, and it's all about your development along the course, how well you can manage this learning curve. But the Delta is a little bit different. There are 3 modules, and the first one is about understanding language, about language, principles, methodology. And there is a test. So for module 1, there is a 3-hour test, which is difficult, but for those people who do the course, they generally get prepared to face the test. Oops. Module 2 is like the CELTA face-to-face part, in which you have to teach, but you teach 2 lessons to get experienced, and then 4 lessons next, the LSAs, when you're assessed when you're teaching. And there are the assignments too. And there is module 3, which is specialism, which can be, there are 2 choices. You can choose to write about the English language teaching or to write about management. So those people who, and there are lots of teachers who have this kind of, they are doing their teaching well, but they also like the management of the whole process. The school, the teachers, managing people. So all of this is also part of this possible module 3 choice that you have. I'm a Delta trainer. I'm a Delta trainer. Yes. Yes. And this is a good question because there aren't many. The reason why it's a long road, but it's a possible road. Right? So I myself had to do all of this planning years ago. Say, okay, where do I start? And say, okay, first I'm going to do that, and then you go on little by little, following the path here of development to the point that you get and we always have something else. I also have my next. I also have the next thing that I am going to do. And because I believe that the day we stop, then you're going to, it's like, of course I am worried about you as teachers, but I'm more worried about your students. So if you stop and you never come to workshops, you never get updated anymore, your students are going to suffer a lot, right? And that's what we do not want to happen. Right. There are people who do that in 2 months in the intensive course. I myself generally talk people out of doing this, because there are some other trainers who generally say, come on, don't say those things aloud, because then people are not going to do the course in 2 months and so on. I really don't care. I think that this is the kind of course that you need time to get all of the input and transform that into intake. It takes time. So yes, there are those who do that in 2 months, but we generally have it module 1 and 2 in 3 or 4 months, and then module 3. So it generally varies between, a good way to think about that, between 3 and 4 and 9 months, 1 year. Yes, no. So you can also do that in a more extensive manner, but the idea should be this one, right? No, you can do it all here. We offer that Up Language, it's not here anymore, but Up Language and my company, Global Teaching Practice, we have a partnership to offer that here in Brazil. So the Delta is offered, Module 1 and 2 especially, they're offered by Up Language in Brazil. There are other centers, but that's the one that we have been working with. So you can do that here, right? Thank God. Because yes, sure. And also because you don't have to spend the money in terms of, air flight and then stay and then the food. And then, that's a lot of money involved, right? So, have you got any questions you'd like to ask about all of this I've told you? So, okay, I'm thinking about what I'm going to do. Don't get discouraged, all right? You're just in the beginning, right? You've got this array of options. So, what is the worst part?
When you are in the class with 10 or 15 students, or every time that I have to face a class, I feel nervous or stuck because so new. I think this is
But where do you think this comes from?
I don't know.
Uh,
I'm secure, but every time that I face first time in class,
the first time.
first time.
Well, let me share this with you then. I've been doing that for 32 years and it's always the same.
Okay, like that.
The first day, I shake like a leaf. I don't let them see it.
If you have only one student or 20,
No, that's natural. That's okay. This is maybe there are people who don't care much or they're more relaxed. But whenever I face my people for the first time, it doesn't matter if they are regular students in Book 1 or teachers doing the CPE or Delta or CELTA. First day, so I try to look as cool as I can, but I'm shaking inside. It's just shivers going down all the time. So it's natural. This is okay. All right. Bottom line here is, do you know now, do you have a better idea now about the differences between training and development? Do you understand that? It's especially in terms of development, it has a lot to do with you. It depends a lot on you. Great. So I really thank you for your patience, because this is not an easy topic. And I wish you great career ahead. I have transformed this session into a 90-minute session, so there should be more in terms of some links. And so if you'd like to receive something else, you can write me an email and say, okay, André, if there is anything else about professional development that you can share, and I'm going to add you to my list of contacts, and whenever I have something to show, either in my blog or anywhere else, I'll link you to that, right? So thank you very much for coming. I suppose there should be no.